Welcome to Tips, the Townsend Institute podcast series, a show produced by the Townsend Institute at Concordia University, Irvine. This podcast shares stories of leadership, coaching, and counseling experiences that have shaped the lives and careers of our guests, who then provide tips aimed toward helping listeners grow in both their personal and professional lives. I'm Dr. John Townsend, psychologist, organizational consultant, and author of over 30 books, including the New York Times best-selling Boundaries series. I'm also the founder of the Townsend Institute, and I'm excited to introduce your podcast hosts, Dr. Ashley Andrew and Dr. Gilbert Fugit.
Welcome back, listeners. Gilbert and I are excited to welcome today's guest, counseling faculty member here in our very own Townsend Institute, and proud Duke alum, Dr. Christine Murray. Dr. Murray's decades of work to combat and support victims of domestic violence are inspiring. As an author, TEDx speaker, licensed marriage and family therapist, and licensed clinical mental health counselor, as well as a key leader of organizations like the Healthy Relationships Initiative, Dr. Murray has a heart of gold and the counseling skills necessary to help people through some of their toughest times, which may include the upcoming holiday season for some listeners.
She sure does, Ashley. We are so blessed to have Dr. Murray on our faculty team here at Concordia University. Today, we find out a little more about her and her experiences, including the incredible work being done by the Healthy Relationships Initiative, aimed at helping individuals and communities thrive by building and maintaining healthy relationships in all areas of their lives. She might also share what her first year as a faculty member at Concordia has been like. So sit back and let's get started.
Welcome back, everyone. We are excited for today's Townsend Institute podcast series episode. Gilbert and I are joined here by our friend and colleague, Dr. Christine Murray. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Woo-hoo.
We are so excited to have you here. You are one of the newer members of our Townsend Institute faculty over in our mental health counseling department. So we're excited to kind of dig a little more into how your first little bit here at the Townsend Institute has been, and just to find out more about your background and history into counseling, different initiatives that you've been a part of, and just overall kind of what's led you here. So we're gonna start with that. Let's jump right in, Christine. I know that you are a Pittsburgh native. Talk maybe a little bit about that, and then your
Pittsburgh,
background.
Pennsylvania, not Kansas.
Not
there,
Kansas,
there are
Gilbert.
two. There are two. So I like to clarify for people.
Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
So I grew up in Pittsburgh, but I currently live in Greensboro, North Carolina. Have been here for actually over 20 years now, just over 20 years. I moved here in 2005. I am here in Greensboro. I kind of originally came here for a job. Before I came to the Townsend Institute just over a year ago, I had a previous career at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro, and I actually retired early as a UNCG and state employee last summer. And during the process of my kind of submitting my retirement and thinking about what was going to be next, I was originally thinking I was going to go into full-time practice doing counseling and consulting, but one of my former doctoral students, Dr. Joy Pfeiffer.
We love Joy.
She happens to be on the faculty here. And so she and I were catching up over lunch one day, and she said, "Hey, we may have a faculty position opening, and might you be interested in applying?" And I thought, I guess I should at least think about it. And so at any rate, the position became open. I submitted my application. I went through the interview process. I binge listened to the Tips podcast in the process of doing that so that I could learn more about the people in the Institute and what the Townsend Institute was all about.
We love that, Christine. I'm sorry to cut you off, but we just have to thank you. I know this is audio only for our listeners out there, but Gilbert and I, our smiles cannot get any bigger when we know that we have a Tips fan, and the fact that she binged listened to our podcast episode. So thank you, Christine.
And we're not going to tell people that if you listen to Tips, you're getting a job in the Townsend Institute. However,
but there's a chance.
There's a chance. If you listen to Tips, though, you'll probably get a job somewhere. So
Sure, there you
I,
go.
I think that could work. And also, I wanted to point out Dr. Joyce Pfeiffer, episode number 2 on tips. So
That is very
there you
true.
go. So
Mhm.
she's been on here too. But yeah,
Full
thank you for being a
circle.
loyal listener.
Well,
Oh
thank
my.
you for having the podcast because, in all honesty, it helped me to prepare for my interviews. So, to be able to learn about people in the center and learn about the culture of the Institute was really very helpful. So yeah, I just celebrated my 1 year Townsend anniversary back in August. And have enjoyed getting to know our colleagues and the students in the Townsend Institute's counseling program as well during that time.
You have got into something called a Healthy Relationships Initiative, right? What what is that? Kind of unpack that. It sounds really interesting, and I've read a little bit about it, but I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts on how did this come about and what all is in it.
So the Healthy Relationships Initiative is an initiative that we've actually been working on it for quite a while now. I was thinking as I was preparing to talk about the Healthy Relationships Initiative today, that with it being 2025, we first
Mhm.
started working on planning for the Healthy Relationships Initiative back in 2015. So it's been 10
Wow.
years
Wow.
of work gone into the Healthy Relationships Initiative by myself and many other people.
Mhm.
But this initiative really started as a partnership between UNC Greensboro and specifically the counseling department and the Phillips Foundation, which is a family foundation based, at least at the time, in Guilford County, Greensboro, North Carolina. And they actually reached out to our department because they were interested in an upstream preventive initiative aimed at promoting healthy relationships initiative. So between about 2015 and 2017, we worked with a large group of community partners. It really did begin as a local initiative based here in Greensboro and Guilford County, North Carolina. That's kind of evolved over time as well. It's not just really limited to our specific local community at this time, but we planned for about 2 years, even just defining what is a healthy relationship. That took a lot of time, which sounds like it should be something that's kind of simple, but to really come up with a definition of healthy relationships that can apply to all different types of relationships across cultures, across different stages in life. And then we also really did, in the beginning, we did a lot of in-person programming, outreach, relationship education workshops, media campaigns, all sorts of different approaches to help really achieve our mission, which is promoting happy, healthy, and safe relationships of all kinds. So, like I said, I will just add briefly that we did start as a really local initiative in Guilford County, and certainly we still have a lot of partners connected with the local community, but really primarily now, and some of this was related to COVID and not being able to do as much in-person programming right around the time that our sort of initial funding timeline for the initiative was coming to an end. So right now, since I'm no longer at UNCG, I just work directly with the Phillips Foundation on a consulting basis, and sort of we kind of are still working together to continue to expand and evolve the Healthy Relationships Initiative.
That's awesome. What a really great program to be a part of, and to see it just kind of come to life and grow over the past decade has got to be such an amazing experience to be a part of. You mentioned that it obviously takes a lot of time to get any initiative or program off the ground, but that part about having to define first off what a healthy relationship is. So you have to let us know, what did you land on? Can you give us a working definition for what is a healthy relationship?
Well, we actually have sort of a continuum that is reflected in our mission statement. So, you heard me say just a moment ago that the mission of HRI is to promote happy, healthy, and safe relationships of all kinds. So, that little term, happy, healthy, and safe, reflects the broader definition of the Healthy Relationships Initiative that we landed on. So, I will try to give a brief recap here. But you can look at our website in the About Us section to get a lot more kind of depth. We've even got a graphic that kind of
Ooh.
shows, yes, it's sort of a pyramid with an arrow that reflects
I
the
love that.
continuum
I
here.
like a graphic. Yeah.
So at the bottom of the pyramid is safety. And so we believe that to be able to have a healthy relationship, you really have to have safety. And that means that a relationship is free from any form of abuse or threats to the well-being of one or more people in that relationship. So you cannot have a healthy relationship unless you have that foundation of safety. The next level up is healthy relationships. And here is really where is kind of, I would say, the meat of the definition of a healthy relationship. And what we tried to identify is qualities that would apply to all different types of relationships. So things like being based in trust, being based in respect, the use of really good communication skills or conflict management skills. We always like to say the little disclaimer, a healthy relationship is not a perfect relationship. But when you're in a healthy relationship, when you face challenges or conflicts, they're seen as opportunities to grow and learn about each other and the relationship. So that's kind of the healthy level of the relationship. And then at the very top of the pyramid is happy relationships. And this is what we view as sort of the peak optimal level of relationship functioning. I would add here something really important to keep in mind about happy relationships is no relationship is always going to be functioning at that sort of peak level of functioning at all times, right? So generally kind of we want to strive for happy relationships at the peak, but recognizing that relationships are going to sort of shift and change. And of course, we're going to go through times of difficulties and challenges that might make it harder to kind of be at that peak level. But the happy level also, I think, just really reflects the fact that people can get a lot of joy and meaning out of the important and significant relationships in their lives.
I love that.
And it's so happy, healthy. I like that. I mean, as you think about this, because it's not just personal life, right? You do some with professional, right? How does this all kind of relate to the professional world? Because a lot of our listeners, right, are out in the professional world. We hope they're not just sitting at home playing video games all day, unless that's your job, right? If your job is to play video games, and you just play them away. But if it's not, you're probably out there in a team and you're interacting, whether it's remotely or face to face. How does the Healthy Relationships Initiative kind of impact workplace?
Sure. Well, and just to add one little additional context to that I think will transition us nicely into thinking about workplace relationships, we also like to point out that happy, healthy, and safe relationships are not going to look the same for each person in every area of their life. So, an example might be exactly related to this topic of workplace relationships. You may have a terrible relationship, let's say, with your boss or a coworker in the workplace. Perhaps maybe you have a wonderful relationship with a coworker and a terrible relationship with your boss, or you've got unsafe relationships at home, but really high quality relationships at work. So it's important to kind of keep that in mind. That's what's so tricky and exciting about relationships is that it's not just us, right? It's not a stable quality
Yes.
about me that all my relationships are going to be the same quality, but it's that sort of interaction. So with that little context in mind, of course, I will say, of course, some people might have really dysfunctional behaviors and they struggle in relationships in all areas of their life. But
Yeah, that's important to say, right? I mean, if you can't think of anything like anybody that might just be dysfunctional, it might be you. You might be the dysfunctional one. You never know, right? So, yeah,
yep. And
maybe not.
even I think that's very true, actually, that if people, and likewise, we probably all can really think about people who have great relationship skills and great relationship qualities. And so they tend to bring that into lots of different areas of their lives. So when we did originally start the Healthy Relationships Initiative, we probably started more thinking about the types of relationships that come to mind. If you say, oh, do you have healthy relationships in your life? Probably the first thing you're going to go to is a romantic or marriage or couple relationship or parenting and families. Maybe friendship might come on the radar. But one of the things that we've found a lot of interest in and have kind of done more work in as time has evolved is on workplace relationships.
Ah,
For one thing, we work in a remote world, but even still, you spend a lot of time at work and you spend a
Mm-hmm.
lot of time interacting with the people at work. And one of the things that's a little bit different that it kind of comes up in a lot of these conversations is that you can choose for the most part who your partner is, who your friend is. Can't necessarily choose your children, right? But you can sort of choose and have a level of influence over them. Workplace relationships, you don't know who is going to get assigned to the office next to you, or who's going to be assigned to you, or who your boss might be. Of course, there's maybe some element, but workplaces do tend to have probably a little bit more diversity when it comes to people's backgrounds and life experiences that they bring in. So over time, we did grow to focus more on healthy relationships in the workplace as one part of the work we do. It's certainly not all of it, but it's a very timely one to be talking about because actually we are launching our new Healthy Relationships at Work Toolkit on our
Ooh.
website, and it's a free download. We kind of have adapted it from workshops that we've done. This is a frequent topic of requested workshops that we've done either in sort of larger group settings or even at some specific workplaces. The workshops are kind of happening on a much more limited basis right now, but we decided to kind of make it as a tool that could be much more easily adapted. So people can just download it. They could certainly work through the toolkit on their own to reflect on their own relationships, work through some skills, or work through with their teammates at work too, and think about what do healthy relationships look like to them. What are some skills that they can use? Creating a healthy workplace culture statement
Mm-hmm.
is something
Yeah.
that can be part of that too, and thinking about then what can we do to bring that positivity into our workplace relationships. So it's definitely maybe not the first type of relationship that a lot of people think about, but it's certainly the relationships and the quality of them in the workplace can have a huge impact on people's lives, especially given
Oh,
how much time we spend at work.
Oh, without a doubt, without a doubt. And yeah, how timely you talked about with that toolkit launching and all of that. So, my question then to you for, say companies and organizations that might be the best candidates to either bring in, you or someone from the initiative to whether it's to talk to their team or to download the toolkit. What do you think are some of the biggest issues or challenges those organizations are having that might benefit from the toolkit? Is it boundaries issues? Is it just, personality issues? You talk about culture, of course. We here at the Institute talk about that in all of our programs and how important that is. So I guess my question to you is what organizations, what teams, what leaders make the best candidates for this kind of work?
Well, I'm going to go with what might seem like a little bit of a cop-out answer, but I think any relationship or any workplace could really benefit from thinking and talking about healthy relationships. And
There you
chances
go.
are any workplace is going to have some unique strengths. I hope
Yes.
every workplace might have some strengths and positive aspects of their culture. And then at the same time, there might be some unique challenges or barriers or very specific problems like a toxic employee or toxic patterns in the workplace, like gossiping or having side conversations about people or bullying,
Yeah.
because actually unsafe relationships also can happen in the workplace too, unfortunately. So I know that's a little bit of a cop out, but I personally believe that a healthy relationship should be available to anyone and everyone in every capacity that they're in any area of their life that they're walking in. And work can be a part of that. And so I personally, and of course, this is just my bias as somebody who really believes strongly in the importance of healthy relationships, but I think that I can't really picture any workplace where they wouldn't benefit from potentially thinking about it. And the other thing that I'll sort of add to that too, this comes a little bit from experience. In addition to my time as a professor at UNC Greensboro, I also was the director of a research center,
Mhm.
and I've worked on different teams and part of teams and leading initiatives and things like that. And of course, it it can take a lot of time and energy to build a healthy workplace relationship culture,
Yes,
and it can
yes.
be destroyed pretty quickly, right?
Yeah.
And so bringing that intentionality is something that can just be so important. So I hope that doesn't seem like a cop out of an answer, but personally, I would, you could probably quiz me and give me any type of workplace, and I would tell you that I think that they would need to, or they would benefit from talking about what healthier relationships might look like.
Oh, absolutely. Makes complete sense.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Yeah, like, man, I wish my workplace was a little more unhealthy. I'm just feeling too much connection here. So yeah, I don't know. So we talk a lot here at the Townsend Institute about boundaries, right? That's kind of a big deal here. What do you think about healthy versus unhealthy boundaries? And I know you this is something you talk about in the healthy relationships initiatives. Can you kind of unpack what that might be?
Sure. So, of course, we know our founder in the Townsend Institute, Dr. Townsend, has done extensive work and really groundbreaking work, I think, related to the topic of boundaries and relationships, which was one of the things that I thought was fun about the potential opportunity to come and work here, given that that's really one of the big things that Dr. Townsend is known
Mhm.
for. But interestingly, within our Healthy Relationships Initiative, the topic of healthy versus unhealthy boundaries has been a very popular one. We have our most viewed video on the HRI YouTube channel has been viewed by, I think, about 70,000 people. And it
Wow.
is a
Wow.
little few-minute explainer video about healthy boundaries that one of our former graduate students developed. By far the most watched video
Wow,
of our
70,000.
Thousand P.
Gilbert's about 20,000 of those, but yeah,
Yeah,
oh my
yeah. I
I
just
goodness.
keep hitting replay,
keep
replay.
trying to
Yeah.
get it. And also from our website analytics, another blog post on that topic is the most frequently visited piece of our website for the Healthy Relationships Initiative. I think it gets maybe on average, I haven't looked exactly immediate. I didn't look before we met today, but I think it gets about 1,500 views per month, which is the most frequent section of our website. So, and that was also a blog post written by a different former graduate student. So,
Wow.
people are searching for information about healthy boundaries and unhealthy boundaries. We've done workshops on the topic. Our work through the Healthy Relationships Initiative, one of the kind of visions of the Phillips Foundation, which is the family foundation that we partnered with, and that sort of had they cast the initial vision for the Healthy Relationships Initiative. They wanted to think about how do we take information about relationships and mental health from the clinic to the community. So, from that lens, our focus, kind of our conceptualization around boundaries, really comes from family therapy, and specifically structural family therapy. So, really, we kind of look at two main aspects of boundaries. First would be sort of how rigid are they versus how diffuse are they, and then how flexible and adaptable are they. So that's kind of inspired by structural family therapy. We try to kind of take everything, some topics that might be more theoretically or research grounded, but translate it so it's very usable for the community. So definitely kind of a lot of interest in that topic of healthy versus unhealthy boundaries we've seen in all different types of relationships.
You've talked so much about just the use of the initiative and the importance of it in workplace relationships. Let's pivot a little bit back to more of the interpersonal relationships. So, those maybe inside the home. Maybe talk a little bit about how this initiative, maybe listeners out there aren't currently employed or maybe can apply it in the professional realm. What are some ways they can take aspects of the initiative and apply it in their home, whether it's a romantic relationship or maybe it's with their children? We know you're a mom, obviously a daughter. What are ways that others can apply this maybe closer to home?
Sure. So we have tried to set the website up so it's as user friendly as possible. So if you go to the HRI website, you'll see a section of the website that basically says, how can HRI help you today? And
Love
we
that.
needed to do that as you can imagine, now we've been working on this initiative for about 10 years. launched to the community officially for about 8 years. So there's just a lot of our resources. So we've tried to kind of pull them together in collections. And right now we have 4 main collections. One is couple relationships. One is parenting young children. One is about healthy relationships in teenagers, which relates both to helping teenagers themselves to have healthy relationships, whether that's friendships or dating, and then also parenting teenagers. And then a general relationship sort of category of kind of all the different dynamics, things like healthy boundaries, positive communication skills, and things like that. So, so really, I think, like you're saying, I think there's always been a lot of interest in the more personal types of relationships, couples, family relationships, parenting. So we've tried to really pack the website with as easily accessible resources. We've got toolkits on those different resources. There's definitely some videos out there. We've got ebooks, blog posts. It's a lot to try to navigate through, but we do try to kind of help facilitate that through how the website is organized.
Yeah. What did you think about, let's say, teenage girls? Right. Say you have a teenage daughter. What do you think are some just a few key things when you're thinking about healthy relationships with your teenagers?
Okay, well, I have 2 teenage boys, so
Okay.
from a personal note, I've definitely been in the thick of raising teenagers at the moment. So when it comes to teenagers, a few things. I mean, one challenge, of course, I will say, I think if you're a parent or a caregiver of a teenager, is communication can definitely be a challenge. How do you we get questions all the time. How do I get my teenager to talk to me? Or I'm concerned about this thing about my child, my teenager, but they are not opening up to me. And so I think for parents, let's start first with maybe kind of a parenting perspective of this, trying to find those opportunities for connection with your teenagers. And remember, it's not about having this one time incredible conversation that's going to change everybody's lives, right? It's about those kind of small moments of connection. I do think, I mean, parenting teenagers, on a personal note, it's quite a humbling experience. It's like my little challenge to myself is my older son is off at college, but my younger son is now still at home. And if I can kind of make him roll his eyes and laugh at me a little bit every day, I feel like I've done my job.
You've won. You have won.
Yes.
Even though he thinks I'm like the biggest dork, but I'm like, I like to try to give him like a little cheesy joke and, just get a little bit of a smile, even if he's like rolling his eyes and annoyed at me a little bit in the process. But, it's definitely a humbling experience. But also I will say, whether in terms of parents or also there's a lot of professionals that interact with teenagers. And I believe, and we've tried to really kind of build resources around this through the Healthy Relationships Initiative, but really as soon as kids, this is probably even younger than teenagers, as soon as they are thinking about dating or they're really kind of navigating peer relationships, we can start to help teenagers think about, what does a healthy relationship look like? What does an unhealthy relationship look like? A lot of times I do believe that parents are afraid to have certain conversations, and then their teenagers or even younger can find themselves into really potentially unsafe, unhealthy relationships. And for the parents, if they seem like, you can't come and speak to me about this, or I'm afraid to talk about this with you, often teenagers are kind of left on their own devices. They might go to their friends for advice, which, maybe their friends aren't like terrible at giving advice. But if you had a teenager and they're in a new dating relationship, even if they're not dating in the sense of like going on dates, but they're hanging out with someone at school, and let's say it becomes isolating or controlling, you would hope there would be a trusted adult somewhere in the mix to be able to talk with them about that, and making sure that they're on the path to having a safe, healthy relationship.
I think that's a great point that you put in. And you know what? That's a similar theme that we've talked about on previous episodes, I think, of the podcast as well, is that trusted adult relationship, that mentor. And sometimes that's not inside the home, right? It starts with the parents, but first, but then it goes out and it's that coach, or it's that church leader, or it's, the neighbor down the street, or sometimes it's the parent of a friend who kids just, feel sometimes even more comfortable opening up to. And so being open to not just maybe the young children in your own home, but the influence that we all can have on other kids in our communities. That's a great reminder, Christine. Wow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think about it as a kid, I think I got a lot of advice from like my friends, and that was a horrible place to get advice, right? We didn't know anything. We're like, oh yeah, that seems like a great idea. Yeah, let's go try that. I don't know how we didn't get in more trouble. So yeah, that's great to think about other trusted adults that could be out there, and not just you two. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. And I also want to piggyback on that. You talked about how these are just small little conversations or things that happen over time, right?
Mhm.
It's not just one big thing. And again, that reminds me of Dr. Townsend was talking about how he, his kids grew up and he would go on walks around the block with his kids. And
Yes.
that's when they would open up. And even we had Dr. Daniel Amen on, and he really emphasized this idea of special time. And special time is different for different relationships and kids, right? When they're younger, it might be sitting on the floor doing a puzzle, or maybe it's throwing a ball in the backyard. But those opportunities just to connect and get the communication going, right? That presence is so key. Wow. Good reminders. Well, Christine, we want to know, this is such amazing work that y'all have been doing for, again, the past decade. Looking towards the future, what are some of the visions and goals for maybe expanding the initiative, additional impact that you hope to have in the community? What are the goals?
Well, I think that definitely the Healthy Relationships Initiative has really been its own sort of evolution over time, especially when I am no longer working at UNCG where it started, and now just sort of more on a much more limited basis, working directly with the Phillips Foundation. So, in fact, I was just in a meeting an hour ago where we were starting to think about where are we going with this? What's the strategic sort of vision from now, moving forward? So I would say right now, a big focus is taking a lot of the resources that we've developed over time and then putting them into more user-friendly formats that are available through the website. So, for example, the Healthy Relationships at Work Toolkit is a great example of that, because it comes from really a number of programs and relationship education presentations and handouts that we've had. And we've tried to kind of put all that information together in a way that just makes it accessible. All the resources through the Healthy Relationship Initiative are totally free. All the resources can be downloaded. I don't even think we require an email address. So the vast majority, if not all of our resources, you can just go find them, download the resources. We love for people to use them, help share them. I recently found out there's just an example of kind of some of the innovative ways that they can be used. Recently she's a former graduate assistant who worked on the Healthy Relationships Initiative, probably back around, I can't remember exactly what year, but it's probably back around the 2015, in the 2010s, let's say.
Yeah.
And she went from graduate school in the counseling program. She went to law school. Now she's working as a family lawyer, and they're going to be sharing our Divorcing with Dignity toolkit
Wow.
with clients who are going through divorce. And she trained her law colleagues. She's in Atlanta now, and she's sharing that resource. So I think really thinking about other partnerships. We love partnerships. I welcome when people reach out with those opportunities, and then I kind of check with the representatives of the foundation. Within the past year, we had opportunity to partner with an international sexual health organization for adolescents, and I did some videos with them, sharing some HRI content about communication and healthy relationships and boundaries that they're translating into all these languages and sharing with youth across the world. So we're still very much in line with kind of trying to figure that all out in terms of what the future direction is. I will give you a little sneak peek that we will have our newest video series coming out around Valentine's Day, and it'll be focused on healthy dating relationships.
Oh,
So 'cause that's a
wonderful.
topic we haven't really address, but we talk a lot about couple relationships, but the formation of couple relationships is one that we haven't directly addressed quite as much. So that's one of our next topics that we're going to be challenging ourselves to focus
Oh, that'll
on.
be a great one. Much needed. Love
Yes.
that.
Yeah. Christine, you've talked a lot about the initiative, but as we're thinking about the church world, right? How can churches, Christian leaders, all those folks better support relationship, education, healing within communities, maybe for those who've experienced some pretty bad trauma or brokenness when it comes to relationships?
Sure. And in fact, even though I was previously working at a secular institution, a public university, faith leaders have definitely been part of many of our conversations around the
That's
Healthy
great.
Relationships Initiative from the beginning. I can remember even we did a focus group or two as we were developing the plans for the Healthy Relationships Initiative, and did a focus group with pastors to try to understand some of the relationship challenges that they're seeing. And I will say, as a little bit of background to this, a lot of times people do reach out to their faith communities
Yeah.
or their faith leaders before they would reach out to, let's say, a family counselor or a marriage counselor
Wow.
or a domestic violence organization in the community. So, and in fact, actually, a little fun fact about me, I did my dissertation and my doctoral program on premarital counseling. And so many of the participants in my survey sample were faith leaders,
Yes.
or pastors, because a lot of times, where do people go for premarital counseling? They go
Yeah.
to their pastors, they don't go
Yeah.
to a licensed clinician, right?
Right.
So the problem is a lot of pastors lack training in understanding some of the dynamics of more involved counseling needs that people may
Yeah.
have, whether
Yeah.
that might be mental health needs or relationships. So from a faith-based standpoint, of course, all church leaders are going to be really focused on theology and learning about the sort of major tenets of their faith and teaching about that. But for those that do want to be a resource for their congregations, for others in their communities around relationship issues, I think seeking out additional training is something that would be helpful, as well as I would like to put in a special plug here. Even though we're talking today primarily about healthy relationships, a vast majority of a lot of the other work that I do is related to unhealthy, unsafe
Oh, yeah.
relationships. A lot of
Yeah.
my work relates to domestic violence, other forms of family violence. And in doing a lot of research and community-based work, and talking with a lot of survivors, many people find that faith leaders, faith community members actually can potentially put people at more risk if they're not aware
Oh,
of unsafe relationship dynamics, and helping to connect people to resources like a domestic violence agency in their community. So certainly that can be a really complicated area, but I think that if anybody's listening that's kind of in this role as a faith leader, and you have not received training or have a pretty, extensive knowledge about the dynamics of abusive relationships, I highly recommend partnering with a local domestic violence agency or a statewide domestic violence organization to get some training for yourself and other faith leaders in your community to know to identify the signs of an abusive relationship and when and how to make referrals if needed, because it truly sometimes these can be life or death situations for people.
Situations, right.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely life-saving. That's a great, great reminder. And for those of you listening out here who are looking to maybe make even a career move to make
Yes.
this more of your life's calling, now's a perfect opportunity to kind of talk. Christine, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your first year with the Townsend Institute.
Yes.
And we focus so much on your Healthy Relationships Initiative and the wonderful work that you all are doing. But our students are ones that are benefiting firsthand from having you in class, seeing you each and every week. Can you talk a little bit about what your first year with the Townsend Institute has been like, and maybe what you enjoy about being a professor and just bringing so much of your knowledge, experience, research, and writings to our classes?
Oh, sure. I'd love to talk about that. As much as I would say, top thing that I love about the Townsend Institute is my colleagues. I will say that the students are definitely neck and neck, and
Aw.
probably a tie for parts of the job that I have enjoyed the most. So coming from a local, previously working at a local face-to-face, in-person counselor education program to the Townsend Institute, It's been an adjustment. I'm not gonna lie, especially the model of having, a lot of the work is asynchronous, but I try to make the most of every moment that I can. But what I love about our classes and our students is that they do have so many interesting backgrounds, and they're coming from all over the country, if not some students who are connecting to our classes internationally. And definitely a great mix of students in terms of those who went straight into their master's program in counseling from undergraduate, which was my path as well, to those who are pursuing counseling as a second career, a third career. I think that our model does make it really accessible to people, including even who may be in a real rural area and not have an option of a face-to-face program.
Those that are in Pittsburgh, Kansas, right?
Yes, yeah.
I think we do. I think our students are well trained. I do really appreciate the integration of the Townsend model and just the attention that we pay to the personal and professional development of our students. And definitely it really hit home for me, especially when I was able to come out for the residency back in May, June, and just the opportunity to finally meet some students, some colleagues in person was just such a treat. The campus is so beautiful. So, not that we get to go to the campus a whole lot if you're working remotely across the country like me, but yeah, it's really been a great second chapter, I guess you could say, in my career.
As we end all episodes, right, we always want our listeners to have a takeaway tip. What can will you leave our audience with today for their tip?
Sure. Well, as an avid listener, I knew that you were going to ask me this question, and was really had to put some extra thought into my tip to leave everyone with. I think I would recommend anybody who's really interested to remember that definition of happy, healthy, and safe relationships. It has so much practical utility. If you find yourself struggling in a relationship, potentially in an unsafe relationship, keeping that in any area of your life, really, keeping that sort of framework in mind is something that can help you real easily say, this relationship doesn't feel safe to me, or I feel like I'm slipping into unhealthy territory, right? Having that and really using it as a tool. On the flip side, if your relationships are going well, then you can use it to really think about the fact that there's really no limit to the joy and meaning that you can get from your relationships. So if things are going well, they could potentially still be even better or more meaningful, or building even a healthier relationship. And so you can really use that framework, I think, to help think about what's something that I could be doing, or what's something I could be working on with this other person to make this relationship even healthier and happier. So if anybody's interested, definitely check out the About section of the HRI website, which is healthyrelationshipsinitiative.org. You'll get to see the graphic that I tried to verbally describe to you, and just have that in mind. I will share personally, I have used that to evaluate the quality of my own personal relationships and times of my life, to think like, why am I struggling? Oh, this relationship is starting to feel unsafe or unhealthy, or how can I think about making this relationship even better? So as a professional, of course, we've spent a lot of time on this definition. Personally, sometimes I find myself thinking like, let me think about this relationship and what's going on here. And then think about maybe some adjustments that need to be made.
Oh, that's so wonderful, Christine. We appreciate you sharing that with us so much. And we'll make sure that we link the website as well for the Healthy Relationships Initiative into our episode notes, so it's easy for all of our listeners to find. And oh my goodness, thank you again for joining us here today and just sharing a little bit more into the glimpse of the work that you do both here in the Institute and outside of it. And we just want to thank you again and congratulations on your 1-year anniversary here with the Townsend Institute. And we're looking forward to many more.
Thank you so much. I've enjoyed our conversation today a lot.
Wonderful. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Christine. Bye-bye.
If you enjoy the Townsend Institute podcast series, head to our website at cui.edu/Townsend to find out more about the certificates, bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees offered through Concordia University, Irvine. With programs in mental health counseling, executive coaching and consulting, and organizational leadership, we have a variety of faith-based programs dedicated to helping you fulfill your academic and professional goals, all the while furthering your competence, character, and connection. Again, that's cui.edu/Townsend.